Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody. I am so delighted to introduce my guest today, Erika Wasserman. Erika stands out as one of only 70 certified financial therapists worldwide. Her passion is to collaborate with clients, guiding them to transform their mindset and embrace fresh beliefs around money, ultimately paving the way to freedom, diverse choices, and new opportunities. Erika saw a gap in the marketplace and left corporate America after spending 10 years at IBM to transform brands from innovative products to household names. She has now turned her attention to coaching individuals, couples, families, teams, and corporate wellness on how to improve communication and relationships on the taboo topic of money. Please join me in welcoming Erika Wasserman. Welcome, Erika.
Hello, I'm excited to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here, Erika. And thank you so much for joining us from your home office in Parkland, Florida, I think is correct, right?
Yep, I'm in sunny South Florida, although it's a little chilly for us here today. I cannot complain.
I hope not, because we're
Yes.
we're in the 20s up here in Boston today. So, but I'm not complaining either, because life is good in general. So speaking of life, we like to begin at the beginning on Work from the Inside Out. So take us back to those formative years and tell us how younger Erika began and how some of those earlier years may or may not have informed where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a kid, I'm the younger of two girls. Grew up in a nuclear family. Both my parents are hardworking, career-driven professionals. And for me, I found math easy. It was something that I excelled in. And I was just sharing a story earlier about, sitting at the sitting at the dining room table with dad doing math homework in middle school, right? Hitting algebra and geometry. And most of the time we got along, and there was a few fights over homework, we'll say.
Uh-huh.
But it was great bonding for us because it was something that I enjoyed and he enjoyed as well.
Oh, okay.
So it was always just something that was good and was very open. And then as we got older, I would find my dad on the family computer back in the day where there was like one household computer, and I'd come home at night from dance practice or wherever I was. And, with his little AOL connection, we'd hear connecting, and he'd be trading stocks. And we would just sit next to each other and start talking about stocks and why he liked this one or which one to look at. And, at this point, maybe I'm 14, 15 years old. And it was just something we were very open and bonded over. And as the years progressed, I have a sister who wasn't interested in that. She went the science route. And my mom's an English major and taught English and became to have a PhD in early childhood education. So we all had different personalities. But for me in math, it was the bonding with my dad.
Nice.
So conversations were easy.
Wow. It's nice to have that, you think about a young age, and this might age me a little bit, but I think about just even, I had that little twinge of a reaction, like when you said, as a kid, I was always good at math. And my first thought, here I am, a child of the 60s and the 70s, thinking a girl who was good at math, which is, a very sexist thing to think, and I don't mean it that way as much as to say, when I was growing up, girls were not encouraged to be good at math. I don't know what your experience with that was or whether you were encouraged in that way. I mean, clearly you were with your dad, and you had some great conversations with him. Was his professional life, did it have anything to do with numbers or?
He was an optometrist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, smart, but not in a math. His best friend was an accountant, right? And
Yeah.
so for us,
Oh,
but it's interesting as you're saying that my dad passed away 6 years ago, and he and I have a
oh,
very, very close relationship.
I'm so
I found
sorry.
a letter from him that he wrote me in 1999
Oh,
and saying how proud he. It's actually hanging up in my office. That's why I'm pointing to it.
oh,
I
yeah.
could still see it in my vision.
Oh,
It says how proud he is of me and how amazing there's so many more opportunities for women. Because back in the day, he said, like with your mom, you were a teacher or you were a nurse.
yeah.
And so the fact that I graduated with the University of Florida with a degree in finance and international economics and started working at IBM in consulting. So
Mm.
this was something, it was funny. Again, he's very practical, right? He's an optometrist, accountant, very easy labels. And so when he's like, well, what do you do at IBM? And I try to explain consulting, a world he knew nothing about. And
Yeah.
finally, I jokingly says, I take out the trash on the third floor. They pay me well.
That's
It
great.
was a joke. Don't worry. I show up every day and they pay me. We're good. Keep going.
Oh, that's so funny. Um, but what a wonderful thing to kind of hang your hat on, that those early relationships and having those early conversations. I can relate to those so much, having had those with my dad as well. He was a school psychologist, so just talking about things that you cared about, and bonding with him over AOL, and looking at stocks online. That must have been, it must have just felt very empowering as a young kid to even have those conversations.
I didn't know that at the time. For me, that was
Yeah.
I didn't until I went through life and I met other people where that wasn't their norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, again in college, the credit cards on every corner. Here, get a free t-shirt, open up a credit card or whatever. And people were just opening up credit cards and they didn't know what an APR was. And they didn't know that you pay off your credit card bill every month. But again, because of my relationship with my dad of open dialogue, that was always stressed to me. And that's all what I knew.
Mm.
Which is actually really how I know we're starting from the beginning, but that's how I became so passionate about being a financial therapist and the emotions around money. It's because of life's dips, right? It's a roller coaster. The ups are ups and the downs are downs.
Yeah.
You have some control over your money. You have choices and you have options, and it's not as drastic. So very thankful for that. And with my career where I've ended up through my own life's, dips and twists,
Right.
I'm able to help others, navigate a little bit better.
Sure. And so you were a finance major, and you finished school and you went to IBM. Was your role there finance related?
It's interesting. I started in finance.
Uh-huh.
I did. And people, it was interesting. I met with my first manager. I know it's like a very informal conversation, so we're going to go off a little bit. I remember meeting with
Yeah.
one of my first managers, and also was a young woman.
Hmm.
And she said to me, I got this in a 360 review, and I didn't like when the manager said it to me. So I'm going to repeat it to you because I see it in you, but I'm going to rephrase it differently and take it as a positive. And I
Hmm.
said, okay. And she goes, you have a can-do attitude, and most people don't. And I didn't understand. And I understand now where she was coming from, right? Because somebody said, like, and so what happened is in my early years, I would get a lot of extra projects because Erika can do it. Erika can do it. And so I started evolving and being more people oriented. And so where I started off in finance, and again, the nice thing about consulting, especially in a large company,
Sure.
is you move and shift jobs.
Right.
And really where I found a sweet spot for a long time was in client relationships.
Aha.
I actually am a certified project manager, and and started working with clients. I worked, with Dow Chemical, Tiffany and Company, some amazing companies.
Yeah.
And then I moved overseas. And so my role shifted
Oh,
when I went there, and I went more into the sales and development team of, again, developing people to be better leaders.
aha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Where did you go overseas?
So I did 2 years in Tokyo, Japan. At
Oh,
that point, I
wow.
was married. We skipped a big step, but along the way, I met an IBM, got married,
Yeah.
moved to Japan for 2 years in Tokyo, and
Hmm.
worked in sales and development for moving from a specialist model for sales teams to generalist model.
Oh,
So how
wow.
to become more well-rounded,
Huh.
and had my first daughter. So at 30
Wow.
years old, had my first daughter in Tokyo.
Wow.
Yeah. And then 3 months after she was born, we moved to Shanghai. And both my husband at the time and myself were working for IBM, and we
Uh-huh.
got moved. I've been moved, right? We lived up to it. We moved 9 times in 12 years.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a
Yeah. So I
lot.
came back to the States, and 3 kids in 4 years, and ended up leaving corporate America and my marriage.
A
So
lot of transitions.
remember that roller coaster ride?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, when does this ride end? I think I only bought one ticket for this one. But I'm curious though about all those transitions. I mean, of course we want to get to where you are today, but I'm curious about just all those different experiences or the opportunities you had with IBM because um, was as you moved into some different areas or divisions or different types of work with IBM, was that something that you invited or stepped into in some ways, or were you kind of asked or told, well, we need you here and we know you can do it, so go over here? Was it that part of that can do thing, or did you have some choices along the way?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of, I want to explore this area a little bit more. What opportunities are there? And then sometimes you get into a role, they're like, hey, we need you to fill over here for a little bit. So in that corporate area, it's normally 18 months into a role. They somehow you get moved. Either you're asking to be moved, or somebody's poaching you to get moved, and you're requested to
Yeah.
go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so there was a lot of flexibility and mobility in there. And again, whatever job I popped into, because of that can-do attitude, I took on that I can do it.
Right.
Not that I could. And so I kept moving up the ladder as well as progressed.
And you got, so it sounds like you had quite a wide range of experiences in different departments or different looking at business and working with clients from very different angles then.
I did, in different cultures as well.
Yeah, right,
And when
right,
I
right.
first went to Japan and I sat in a sales meeting, right? They brought me to a client meeting for something. And I went to go sit on the opposite side of the table, right? You balance the table out. You don't want everybody.
Right.
No, 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 no. Like I was doing
Oh,
it incorrectly. For culturally, you sit on one side of the table, you sit in a certain order. Like there were things that I had to learn along the way and adapt, because culturally things are done differently.
right.
But one of my favorite things is exploring, and
Yeah, okay.
it's exploring people and exploring cultures, and I'm always seeking to learn. So I
Yeah.
think that helped me along my journey as well, as I look at it as opportunity,
Yeah, yeah.
not obstacles.
Right, right. Yeah. And so when you returned to the States and you had so you have this very full family, right? And things are changing in your marriage, and not that we're going to spend a lot of time in that, but these are big life changes, and those big changes do affect how we look and think about work and the choices we're making. So um, I'm curious about sort of the convergence of you then deciding to leave your corporate role, and you left your corporate role at IBM and then started your own business. Was it that kind of a transition, or was there something else that you did in between?
There was something I did in between.
Oh, okay.
A couple things happened. One, we're talking about career and the journey.
Yeah.
I can recall those nights and days and conversations of bawling my eyes out, because we had two corporate people in the marriage, in the
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
working 60 hours a week, pregnant with the second. And we knew that wasn't how we want to raise our family. So I've worked so hard, through high school, through college, through my, I told you I'm moving up the ladder. And all of a sudden I was going to step away from corporate America to, to raise a family.
I see. Okay.
And it really impacted me in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
With all of that being said, I'm also that can-do girl. So opportunity knocked. We were living in China. I had a 4-month-old baby ready to start eating food. And another expat mom cracks open organic baby food from the UK. And it was a pouch. Nowadays, you see the pouches all the time.
Yeah.
But then nobody had seen it before. I'm like,
yeah.
What is this? Right. So I started importing it from Hong Kong. Anytime somebody was going on a trip to Hong Kong, or a friend from the UK was coming over, I needed baby food. Right. I have this baby. So when she was a year old, we moved back to the States and I reached out to the company called Ella's Kitchen. And I was like, why aren't you in the US? Because I'm still having friends ship me baby food. And they said, and I said, well, how can I help? I just left my corporate job. How can I help you? I met this, again, this is I contacted customer care, we did a couple emails and then they said, oh, the CEO is coming to New York City. Great. I was living in Connecticut at the time. I met him at a Dunkin' Donuts in the Lower East Side and they hired me on the spot.
Oh my goodness.
Because this is the world that I was in. I was now pregnant with baby number 2. I'm organic. I'm mom. I'm an expat, right? So because their culture is from the UK, I have a little bit of understanding. And it was a 3-person marketing team, all young moms sharing the role. And it was fantastic. And I was with them for 5 years until they got bought out by Hain Celestial. I stayed with the transition for a little bit, but then realized how much I enjoyed working and building brands, which is how I led to my second brand in the alternative pasta space.
Oh, wow. So you stayed with the food business too.
I did. That was my world at that point. And with entrepreneurs and a small team, you wear many, many hats. So, VP of marketing, but I'm also, doing strategy, packaging, dealing with founders because their niche is one area. And so my financial background came in handy here of how to manage budgets. Where do we want to spend? Mixed personalities on the team, right? How do we get what we need to do in the next few months? How do we prioritize and have everybody in the room feel seen and heard of what their priorities are?
Wow.
So I did financial therapy long before I had a certification in it.
Wow. Wow. Those are a lot of agenda. And you had how many kids at home by that point? I
had
2 or 3?
3. I had 3 kids in 3 years. Yeah. And
3 kids in 3 years. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. Can do attitude, right?
Yeah, I guess you can, right? 3 kids in 3 years. Wow. I guess that was very efficient of you.
Exactly. I joke. I said I had my first one at 30. I said I started late and ended early.
I love it. Oh, that's great. So, so then this was the alternative pasta company, and how long were you with them for?
Another 5 years.
Oh my goodness. So that was between the food, the baby food and the pasta company. You had, it sounds like about 10 years in each of these enterprises.
Yep. 10 years in consulting, global consulting.
Right.
And 10 years in the organic food space, which was also global because the both brands I worked with were international brands.
And so what made you then step away from the pasta company?
My dad's death was a big piece of this. When he passed away, like I said, I was married, I was divorced. He was my constant and my financial accountability partner through all of this.
Oh.
So my dips, as much as they were dips on the roller coaster ride, they weren't as extreme because I was always in control of the finances. I knew where the money was. I knew how to prioritize or what was important to me, right? Where some of my peers around me didn't. And so the ride was a lot crazier. And I'm so thankful for my dad for that opportunity that he gave me and being having open conversations and being an ally. But I lost him. My mom also lost him. They were married
Yes.
for 50 years. So
Wow.
she knew where the binder was, but she didn't understand everything that he and I had talked about in that binder.
Yeah.
And over the next several years, I become her confidant and
Hmm.
her partner in
Yeah.
these conversations and building her confidence and things like that. So it was around this time that I heard of financial therapy. And for me, the aha moment went off to
Yeah.
say, wait, I can talk about money and and help people. This is, and I'll go back to it's funny, a life's full circle. When I was going through my divorce, right? 3 kids under 4, rug was pulled out from under me. Just, it was a bad time for me.
I'm sure.
I found meditation.
Oh,
And when I was doing meditation, you asked 3 questions. Who are you? What do you want? And what's your purpose? And I was fortunate enough to be at a Deepak Chopra center because I had a business trip that was nearby. And at the time, I just went and I spent 3 days there. And I remember meeting with one of the guides or however you want to refer to, and said, your Dharma might not come right away. In fact, it's probably not. It's going to take time and it will manifest somewhere in your life. So I always thought my purpose was to help people go through difficult challenges, taking the higher road.
you did.
Because the way
From how, I mean, when would you say you recognize that within yourself?
going through my divorce.
Okay.
So a decade ago, because we got divorced by a mediator, it took us 3 months. Like we did it what was best for our children, and for me, again, I was seeing what was happening around me, and that wasn't the case. So, and other life events had happened leading up to that, where I'd taken, in my opinion, taken the higher road, and it was just a better transition for my health and wealth, but
Yeah.
also those around me. So I knew that was my purpose. When I heard of financial therapy, the light bulb went off, right? That big aha moment when I'm like,
Yeah.
this is it. And right
Yeah.
from there, I went to Kansas State and got the graduate certificate for financial therapy. It was a year-long program, and I just fell in love with this practice.
So you found out about financial therapy. Were you at that time? I mean, you had a lot of changes going on in your life too. I understand that. Were you looking for something to do that you could do on your own? Had you been thinking about working for yourself at all, or it wasn't even on the radar?
This was something I wanted to do for me, to have in my back pocket. I
Oh,
thought over time I will work this into working with entrepreneurs in some way. And here's what happened. Life. January 1st, 2020, I hop on a plane, told you I love exploring, and I go to a wellness resort. And there I meet a beautiful woman named Judy Goldberg. And we're meeting and talking, and she does consulting and for leadership development and management at wonderful companies, big brands that you would know about. And had a delightful time. We decided to stay in touch. She knew what I was doing in my business and the financial therapy that I was going to eventually do something with.
yeah.
Well, guess what happened? March 2020, COVID. And so the two of us stayed in touch. And so the interesting thing is, you never know who people come into your life for a reason, a season, a lifetime, however they show up. And she was put on my path for a reason. And I'm forever grateful for her. And what happened was we were talking. Well, guess what her clients needed in learning and development? Financial wellness. So my first client was Warner Music.
Wow.
I didn't even think about corporate space, right? I have a decade of experience with IBM and corporate. I understand how big corporations work, global expats, right? Like, I get how that works. It never dawned on me for corporate wellness. And I have to say, about 60% of my business to this day is global corporate clients. I
Makes
work
sense.
with Warner Brothers Discovery is another one of my large clients, right?
Wow.
All over the world, money is emotions everywhere. It's like music, right? We all might have different colors, shades of the money, just like we might have different tones or rhythms of music. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we all the cultures have it. It's underlining.
That's amazing. Yeah, because when you hear, oh, I found out about financial therapy, the first thought one might have is, oh, you're going to help individuals, maybe couples, right?
Yeah.
I mean, corporate just wouldn't even be on the radar, right?
No, but kind of goes back to that can-do attitude,
Right, right.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
of course I can do that. And not only not only did I do it, it was supposed to be a two-part series. They asked for a third.
So how did you, and maybe I'm making a presumption here, you were trained in, or you had your certification at that point in financial therapy. Was that training focused on individuals or families more than, or did you have to adapt your your training or your foundation from financial therapy to fit into a corporate model, or was it, or was that part of the landscape of your certification?
Yeah, because financial therapy is so new, it's been around about 10 years. There's not a lot that's out there to copy, right? So it's a lot of creating of my own.
Yeah.
Again, I love to explore and play. So for example, earlier today I did a practice webinar for something that I'm launching, and I cultivated 15 people from different backgrounds, different professions to get their feedback.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn and grow. So when I
Right.
work with corporations, again, I'm working with different cultures, different time zones, different
Yeah.
currencies, different learning styles. So for me, it was able to do it. But at the end of the day, it's the individual that I'm talking to.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't matter if it's you and me or if it's a large room, I'm talking to you because I want to make a difference for you.
Right. Right. No, I get that. I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. But it's still helpful to hear you say it and put that in a context, because I think oftentimes when we think about going into a corporate environment to provide some kind of learning opportunity, it's always got to be, for the corporation. And I think if you do good things for the wellness or the well-being of your employees, it is good for the corporation. But
Exactly.
it might not be teaching them another, sort of business skill, even though there might be skills within what you teach that do help them with something they might be managing on the job, but it's really more about their own relationship with money. Am I right about that?
And that's it, because our relationship with money affects us. In fact, if you scan your body right now, when we're thinking about money, go ahead and take a scan.
Yep.
Where does it show up on you?
Good question. I always love it when my guests make me do something like this. Um, I think it sort of shows up in my center, like my belly.
Yeah. So it shows up differently for everybody. For me, it's in
Yeah.
my chest and
Mm,
tightening in my chest. I asked this question yesterday in a workshop that I was doing. A lot of head, a lot of stomach.
mm,
One client recently told me in their back.
hmm.
So our relationship with money impacts our physical health.
Yeah.
And we don't think about it. What happens now, especially as an employer,
Yeah.
is your employees aren't feeling well. They're having
Yeah.
sleepless nights. They're worrying about money. They're sitting it in their gut or in their head. Well, what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen? They're going to go to the doctor and say, I have an ulcer, I have a stomach ache, I have this, miss work, and irritability, right? When you're not feeling well, you ain't happy in the office.
Right.
And so where financial wellness is such a key component of employee retention and happiness is
Absolutely.
because you're addressing a need of a topic that's so taboo. And
Right.
when almost like a balloon, right? It's like you're stressed. It's just like putting a little pin in it,
Mm,
and you slowly deflate it down, bursting it, bursting.
mm-hmm. I love that. That's great. I love the imagery of that too. That's wonderful. Um, so tell us more about your work and all that you're doing today.
Such a loaded question.
Because I have a feeling with the can-do attitude, you're doing a lot, but it feels like the right juncture to sort of go to what does today look like? I mean, I'm sure you're doing a lot of different things, but I want people to know about what you do.
Yeah. So literally today is a great example. This morning, I hosted a webinar for financial advisors on how to work with the emotions of their clients that are showing up.
Oh, that's great.
Think about it. You and I have an emotion. Now we got to meet with our accountant or attorney or financial advisor, even a dentist, right? Because they're gonna give you a bill at the end of the day.
Right.
How do you work with the person sitting on the other side with you who already shows up with emotion? How do you identify with them?
Right.
So that was a whole webinar, and it was about the how and the wow.
Oh, the how and the wow. I love that.
Some people are going to be like, wow, I want to retire in Hawaii on the beach. And the other person sitting there going, how? Who's the realtor? How are we going to pay the taxes? Who's going to come visit us? Same 2-minute conversation you just had.
Right.
Completely different interaction.
Right.
And to retain a client as an advisor, it's not just your financial knowledge.
Right.
But it's also your personality. How are you connecting and hearing your clients? So that was this morning. Then I switched gears and I sent off to print my Let's Talk About Finances cards. So those are 50 conversation cards that are available on Amazon or my website.
Oh, wonderful.
That way you have a partner. It's a couples edition. The divorce edition is coming out later this year.
Oh, wow.
About how to talk to your partner. Like, I'll ask you a great question, which is, let's see, which one do I ask? What's your favorite bill to pay?
What a great question.
What is it?
Oh, I'm supposed to answer that?
Yeah. Again, you never thought about it.
My favorite bill to pay, probably my mortgage.
Why?
Because I can pay it, and because I see it as an investment. I see it as something that represents it's a foundation. It's security, it's stability. Yeah. Safety. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Pretty much the only debt I really carry anyway. So,
but it could be your electric bill, paying for, your golf membership, paying for, so for me right now, when my kids were younger, I now have 3 teenage daughters. But then when they were younger, my favorite bill to pay was the nanny.
Get it. I get it. Yeah.
Because my house was clean, my kids were fed, I could get my job done. That was my favorite bill to pay. Right. And so when we start identifying money as energy and how we move and use it becomes a different type of conversation. You feel lighter paying your mortgage now because it's your favorite bill to pay.
Yeah.
Your mindset. So that's cool. And then I'm ending tonight with a session with a couple who are about to get remarried. So they come from two marriages before, not to each other.
Separately. Oh, I was going to say, I wasn't sure what you meant.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how nice.
Different money mindsets. One had a very positive relationship with their ex-spouse around money and having a safety net. The other one didn't. The other one was in charge of the finances, always teetering on bankruptcy. And now they're about to move in together. So they want to do some work on how do they communicate? How do they know how to share bills? Which ones feel good? Which ones don't? And so before they move in, we're meeting, which I think is great to work through some of these things, because besides adultery, finance is the other reason that people get divorced, that relationship.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember before I got married, we sat down with the rabbi who went through sort of a laundry list, a short one, of the things that can really impact a relationship, at least according to this particular person. And I remember, him asking, have you come to some agreements about how you're going to handle money, how you're going to do this, how you're going to do that? And, these are all the things that can really create big problems. And definitely money was on that list, no doubt about it.
And often the person who draws a short straw is the one who's in charge of finances. Because if you go back to background, religion, and experiences, generally make up a financial perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a unique background. I shared mine. Religion, you just shared yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know a certain percentage goes to charity, generally in the Jewish religion and other religions as well. Money might be seen as greed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your own personal experiences.
Right.
So if you're not understanding one another, where you come from, there's going to be a lot of conflict. But back to the background is, so the person who drew the short straw is like, I'm doing the finances because my dad always did the finances. The man does the finances in the household. Doesn't mean he was taught how to do it.
No.
Or how to ask questions when they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And that's where we get, because it's such a taboo topic to talk about money. You can't grow if you're not asking questions.
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And that apply that, and I wonder what you think about, I'm curious what you think about this, because for many years, I taught a course in financial coaching, working with frontline workers in a variety of community-based organizations who were working with low and moderate income populations to help them understand some of the foundational pieces about their own finances. So teaching people about credit and budgeting and cash flow, things like that. And I was teaching them coaching skills and tools. And what I always would say to my classes is, think of money as the metaphor for so many other things that are going on in these folks' lives. So it's not really about the money itself, but it's the metaphor. And I feel like a lot of what you're talking about feels like, yes, you do have to handle the money and all of that, but it does become a metaphor, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And oftentimes it keeps recycling too.
Yeah. So I can imagine.
Talk about, we tell ourselves over and over again, or is passed down to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's how you often see the same things until somebody like yourself or me that steps in to say, hey, there's another way of looking at this.
Exactly.
There's a different metaphor we can share with you.
Right.
I work with a yes, I can plan, not a budget. Budgets are like a diet to me, right? I'm going to some point, I'm going to rebel against it. I'm going to be fatter than where I started. I'm going to have more debt than where I came from.
Yeah.
So I want a yes plan. What am I intentionally saying yes to?
Yeah. I love that.
It's better.
Yeah.
And I can say no a lot easier because that's going to hurt my yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it's kind of having more of a scarcity mindset, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because some of the clients that I work with have such a scarcity mindset that they don't enjoy life.
Right.
And so those are the clients that it's shifting. And for them, I do sunshine funds every month, right? Like every month, tuck away a little bit of money for you and go spend it.
Yeah.
Go spend it. Go get the manicure with your friend. Go buy, I had a friend in the hospital, went bought the nurses, some gift cards for coffee, right?
Oh, nice.
Those are little drops of sunshine that you around you and for yourself.
Yeah.
So scarcity is good to an extent, but not to where you forget to enjoy where you are.
Right.
And who.
Right. Well, the scarcity mindset too is where you're just saying no to everything, right? We can't. And some of those people really could.
Mm-hmm.
They have the funds, but they've just been told you're not supposed to, that you're supposed to put it away for a rainy day. I think some of that ties in with the, how many of us had an older relative who went through the Depression era. And so there's that whole mindset and culture, and understandably so. But I think many of us were influenced by that, either through a parent or a grandparent or, some generation before us. And so I can understand how that not only affects how our relationship with money, but also our relationship with our careers. And that's something that I talk to people about pretty regularly. I can see where that would come up in your work as well.
Yeah, for sure. Again, that goes back to background and experiences.
Yeah, right. So this is amazing. I'm sure we have a lot of listeners who are going to want to learn a lot more about what you're up to and how they can find out more about your work. What would be the best place for them to go to do that?
Yeah. So the best place to reach me is on my website is yourfinancialtherapist.com.
Okay, great.
Also on Instagram or on LinkedIn. So three great places. You can always drop me an email as well at Erika, Erika, at yourfinancialtherapist.com.
Wonderful. Well, we will have all of that in the show notes and a link to your cards on Amazon, which would be great. I'm going to go check those out. That's wonderful. And I think it's so cool that you have more cards coming out, so that there's lots of different ways for people to learn about their own relationship with money and how they can make some of those shifts, I think, to have more joy and resources in their lives, right?
Yeah, the goal is to increase your health and your wealth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, and Erika, as you know, on Work from the Inside Out, we really focus a lot on all the different changes, twists and turns and things people make in their lives. And certainly you're helping all kinds of people do that. But you've done a ton of that in your own career. What would be a key piece of advice you might give to someone who's trying to decide what's next for them?
Yeah, I think a key piece of advice is be ready to say yes. Put on your can-do attitude and go and try and do it and pivot if you need to. But sometimes when opportunity knocks, do a little bit of research, but really lean in and say yes.
I love that. Well, on that note, I'm going to say yes. And thank you so much for being here. This has been a great conversation. I think our listeners are going to have gotten a lot of value from this. And I encourage them to check out Erika's work on yourfinancialtherapist.com. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. What a fun and enjoyable conversation. I'm so glad we had the opportunity to sit and chat. I feel like we could have done it for hours.
I think so. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for sticking around to the end of my interview with Erika Wasserman. What is your key takeaway from our conversation? If you are interested in any of the resources mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them in the show notes on my website at tammygulerloeb.com/podcast. Just look for episode 246. And while there, you can also subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. And if you're feeling it, please help me to inspire more people to grow their careers by clicking on the Apple Podcasts button. Leave an honest rating and brief review. I've provided step-by-step instructions to make it easy for you. Are you anticipating your next professional move? Check out my award-winning book, Work from the Inside Out: Break Through 9 Common Obstacles and Design a Career that Fulfills You. It's available through my website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or you can ask your local library to get it. You can also help sustain this podcast by buying me a cup of coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/TammyGL. Since this podcast is self-funded, your support is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.